President Trump issuing a warning to Venezuela's military, putting more pressure on Nicolás Maduro and reiterating the U.S. support for interim President Juan Guaido.
Today, I ask every member of the Maduro regime, end this nightmare of poverty, hunger, and death for your people. Let your people go. Set your country free. Now is the time for all Venezuelan patriots to act together as one united people.
Joining us now, CNBC contributor Michelle Caruso-Cabrera. Michelle, fiery speech, and no surprise already, a response from Maduro.
Yes, Maduro has completely rejected it, called Trump a Nazi. But Trump's speech is part of this very steady drumbeat that we've seen for the last month. Every couple of days, there's either sanctions, announcements from the Lima Group. The U.S. government flew in 3 C-17s loaded with humanitarian aid into a town on the border between Colombia and Venezuela over the weekend. And President Trump isn't alone in the Western Hemisphere. I sat down last week with Ivan Duque. He's the president of Colombia, and he reiterated also the military has got to turn because it's time for Maduro to go.
His days are over. So now the military, who are the ones that have to make the next shift, the turn, the change-ship, they have now to support President Guaido. Because what is the other option? Continue with a dictatorship that has impoverished the whole population, a hyperinflation of millions, the deterioration of all the liberties? Juan Guaido is not only the option to enter into a democracy, he is the option to reestablish liberties and hope for the Venezuelan people.
There's a showdown coming Saturday, February 23rd. Juan Guaido said that is the day that Venezuela needs to allow in all this humanitarian aid, because remember, up until now, Nicolás Maduro rejects that there's a crisis in Venezuela, even though from all the video that we've seen coming out of there, obviously, there is one.
What is this deadline? Who made this deadline, and what happens because Maduro still controls the military and security services?
Right. So Juan Guaido is the interim self-declared president. It's an artificial deadline. He's put it out there. It's clearly coordinated with Colombia, Brazil, and the United States and everybody else that's supporting him. The idea is to get a lot of aid into 3 cities near the border and then to pressure the military. Richard Branson's going to throw a concert to try to bring eyes to the situation. Right. I think it's this massive effort to embarrass the military and Nicolás Maduro to say, and to have the whole world ask, why wouldn't you let in humanitarian aid when people are starving?
Whose idea was this for Branson? Was it that was Guaido's idea?
Richard Branson says that Juan Guaido asked him to do this. And now Maduro's going to throw a competing concert on the other side of the border that night as well, we're told.
A competing concert?
Yes, yes. It's become very surreal.
Yeah. What the biggest applause line from Trump was that we'll never hit. It was a combined speech. It was directed a little bit at 2020 and all the socialists.
For sure. So, yeah. So this was definitely a foreign policy speech about Latin America, but it was also a domestic policy speech delivered to Cuban and Venezuelan exiles. So the biggest line he got was when he said, "America will never be a socialist country," and the crowd went crazy.
Also, that we're going to really eradicate it from this hemisphere. And that previous presidents really haven't been that outspoken about that. They've tiptoed around it a little bit more.
It was an incredibly dramatic call by President Trump to say, if we can get rid of socialism in Venezuela, Cuba, and Nicaragua, the entire Western Hemisphere will be free of socialism. We haven't had a president talk that way since basically Kennedy.
Right. I just the 24-pound reference.
Weight loss, people losing weight in Venezuela.
I mean, how do they? Is that? I hear that number. These are middle class and upper class people that are hungry. Because to lose, I can tell you, to lose 25 pounds, you need to be hungry like all the time. So these are people that, if they had more food, I mean, we don't understand that here. I don't think with.
There are rampant price controls, right? The government decides everything. And when you put a price control on something, if you're a producer, right, and you can't charge what it costs you to produce, you stop producing. We learned that here in the United States in the 70s when we had price controls under Nixon and farmers were killing their chickens because it was cheaper to kill them than to sell them.
Can I ask you a question? Because we have the headline right here, Trump criticized socialism, and you made the point about North and South America and sort of this larger point.
Yep.
But don't you think that what he's really going after is actually the conversation among progressives in the United States? Well, don't you think that that's what the jab is about? To me, I mean, I don't want to be dismissive of what's happening in Venezuela relative to what President Trump is saying, but I feel like there's sort of a duality.
You think he's using Venezuela just?
I'm just suggesting that there's a duality to what's actually happening.
You think it's serious enough in Venezuela where, I mean, he's asking the military to back a different guy when the Soviets or the Russians are still with it. I mean, this is a serious situation. You think it's all a red herring to criticize Bernie Sanders, Andrew?
I'm just suggesting I'm suggesting that some of the rhetoric.
I know, we said that. It's partly aimed here, partly aimed there, but I think 80% is aimed down there. 20%. You think it's 90-10? Aimed here at AOC?
When you put John Bolton and Elliott Abrams in the administration, these are two people who care very deeply about eradicating socialism from Latin America, and they have for decades and decades. But your point is taken. Viewpoint. They are absolutely. This is also
they
about
called him a Nazi.
2020.
Who called him a
Maduro? This is, you know.
Or was that the entire primetime lineup of CNN that called him a Nazi? Kidding. I apologize. I apologize.
It's okay because you apologize right away.
I apologize right away.
Like it never happens.
Apologize right away. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So watch Saturday, guys. This is let's see what happens.
But just quickly, as the trade talks with China come up in the United States this week, is that going to be a pressure point at all to pressure China into backing away from their support of Maduro?
So the reports are that China is already speaking with members of the opposition in Washington, D.C. to try to protect their interests. Remember, they have spent a lot of money. I call them red elephants. They've got like more than 700 projects supposedly going in Venezuela, bullet trains, et cetera, all of which I think they're discovering are coming to naught because they can't get anything done down there. They're going to want to protect their interests. I'm not sure. I think the moment they discover that Maduro's not in their interest, I'm not sure they back him anymore.